had a TikTok video that went viral. So I just wanted to come here on my YouTube channel to get more into details about he doesn't want you, right? And the reason I want to talk about this topic because I see that so many people resonated with the topic, and it seems like this is something that we really need to talk about. And the reason I came up with that topic, I just, really spoke from my heart in the car. And I feel like we need to understand when we get into relationships or when we're trying to relate to someone. First, we got to understand who we are. A lot of us have gotten into relationships because we have not dealt with our own traumas. We have not dealt with our own childhood issues. And that causes us to get into relationships that God did not ordain for us. You have to look at it like this. If you are a broken individual, if you are a broken human, which means that you have not dealt with your childhood traumas, it is impossible for you to select a mate that is right for you. You're going to select a mate or choose a mate, or someone will be attracted to you because of your trauma, right? We choose people based on where we are at the time. That's why so many relationships are falling apart right now, because instead of growing together, you have two people, right, that have gotten together based on their traumas or their hurts, or just based on what they feel like a relationship is. No one really taught us these things. We're just going off of what we think being in a relationship is, or what we feel is right. And that's another thing. When you're broken, you go off your feelings. I feel like I love him, or I feel like he loves me. But what are the facts? You have to choose facts over feelings. What is this man showing you? Is he treating you well? Is he constantly cheating on you, right? Is he devaluing you? Is he triangulating you? Using all these different manipulating tactics to control you. You have to think about it. Can you be yourself around this man, right? What about your friends? Do you still have the friends that you had? I understand people outgrow each other, but is your relationship just all about him? Does everything you do revolve around him, right? So these are things you have to look at. And the reason I talk about healing so much, because when we're healed, we can make better decisions. We can make better choices when it comes to relationships, right? We can make better choices, because if you're not healed, you're going to select someone or choose someone based on where you are at that time. You haven't given yourself chance to heal. You haven't given yourself chance to grow. And if you don't do that, you're going to get with someone that God did not ordain for you. That's why, like I've stated, that's why relationships are so traumatic. That's why relationships are so hard, because we're not selecting relationship based on facts that we've gathered. We're selecting relationships based on feelings. We're getting with people because superficial things, because he looks good, because he smells good, because he's fine, because he has potential. No, what is he showing you right now? What is he showing you at this moment? Not what he possibly could be, because we know people don't become their fullest potential when it comes to relationship. It's almost like they drag you along and wanted you to try to build them up or bring out this false person that we have in our heads, right? So what is he showing you at this moment? What is he showing you? And that's why there's another thing. That's why it's not good to rush relationships. Relationships take time. Any person who wants you to rush a relationship, any person you meet this week and you guys are in the bed next week, and then the following week you're in a full-blown relationship, you haven't given yourself time to, study this person. You haven't given yourself time to get to know this person. You haven't asked questions about, why did the last relationship not work out? You know what I mean? You didn't ask him about his STD status. You didn't ask him about how was his relationship with his mom. You didn't give yourself time to observe how he interacts with his family, because that'll tell you a lot. That'll tell you a lot about a person. And this can go the opposite way as far as the female, right? And I get it. We're not all perfect. We're going to come from some dysfunctional families. Most of us do come from very dysfunctional families. But in order to make sure your relationship is healthy, these are questions you should be asking. These are questions you should be asking. Don't be getting into a relationship because you vibe with him. You know, you feel connected to him. Anybody could make you feel connected. We watch movies and feel connected to people. How many boyfriends or crushes you don't had in movies? How many Denzel Washingtons and Keanu Reeves and, you know, Omar Epps and Tay Diggs? How many people we don't connect with in movies? Come on now, we can connect with anybody. But we have to look at the facts. We have to make sure that we are healed within ourselves. We have to make sure that we are whole. We have to find out who we are. Because a lot of times we don't know who we are. So what we'll do is we'll get with someone else and we want to make them make us feel validated. No. We have to already be validated within ourselves. That's why you should not get into a relationship until you have done the work, until you have did the work on yourself, until you have healed, until you have dealt with your childhood traumas, your childhood voids, things that you are lacking, you know, dealt with your mommy wounds, your daddy wounds. These are things you should deal with before you get into a relationship. And you would think that people would know this stuff, but they don't know this stuff. You have people in their 40s, 50s, and 60s still dealing with these issues because they never really faced themselves. And it is hard to face yourself. People don't want to face themselves because that requires them to do the work. And that's why I'm here as a life coach. That's why I'm here as a person who have experienced a lot of these things in my teenage years. I was in my teen years dealing with things that people in their 30s and 40s should have been dealing with or experiencing. I didn't even have enough life. I still was a baby dealing with these things. But because I didn't know better, I wasn't able to do better. Right? So this is how you know that you're not in the right relationship, because when you got in the relationship, you were not a whole person yourself. You were not whole. So how can you make a sound decision on who is the right person for you? Now I get it. Sometimes both of you could get together not knowing who you are. And you realize that you guys got together over superficial things. But the thing about this is, when you realize you have gotten with the person based on superficial things, if you guys want to make that relationship work, you can grow together. You can submit yourself to God and do things the right way, right? You can give every lust, everything that you prioritized in a relationship, you can give that to God, and He could really restore and change you all. But you have to want to do that together. You have to submit to God together. This not something you just want to do because it sounds good or because you want to satisfy your lust. No, this is something you really have to do. And He can bless it, but you have to be willing to repent, and you have to be willing to submit yourselves to God together. I mean, genuinely. Getting rid of the lust that you guys base the relationships on, all the superficial things, and really submit yourselves to God. Especially if you're not married, this may require that you move into separate apartments until you guys, become married. I believe if we learn to do things God's way, there is no way we would be going through the trauma and the pain and the abuse that we experience in relationships. This is me. This is what I believe. You can disagree, that's your opinion. But for me, if we did things how God say to do it, I don't think we would experience some of the traumas that we experience right now in relationships. I mean, I made one video on TikTok and it just went viral, and so many people could relate to it because we have been in relationships where we're trying to make people want us. We're trying to make people love us. We're trying to demand things from a person who is not even our mate, right? We're trying to create this fantasy of a person, and the person is not capable. He's not capable of loving you how God intended for you to be loved. But we want to create a man. We want to be Bob to build her. Okay, we want to build a man when God is telling us to leave the man. We shouldn't have even been with that man. But what the enemy does, he will appeal to our lust. The enemy will appeal to our flesh, and he'll send people to appeal to our flesh. And that's how we end up in these relationships that almost takes us out. These relationships are killing people. These relationships are making people sick because of the energy that it takes to maintain those relationships. Relationships shouldn't be hard. I don't care what anybody says. Relationships should not be hard. Relationships should not be where you got to go to therapy. You got to go always be in a therapy session. You got to go talk to somebody. You got to tell, it shouldn't be that hard. I don't care what anybody says. It should not be that hard. When you get into a relationship and you are a whole person within yourself, communication should be easy for the both of you. Communication should be easy. If you're in a relationship and you can't communicate with that person, or that person don't want to hear you out, or you always feel like you're looking for their validation, those are manipulation tactics that people are using to abuse you. You're in an abusive relationship. If there's no communication, the person just go silent. They call it the silent treatment, or the person can't communicate without getting angry. Or whenever you're trying to express yourself, they feel like you're attacking them. But the only thing you want to do is have them listen to you. If you guys can't do that in a relationship, you shouldn't be in a relationship. A relationship is two whole healthy people getting together to create a family, right? To create a family, to live out the will that God has for the family to live out on earth. But you can't do that if you're with the wrong person. You can't do that if you're in an abusive relationship. Just think about all the time that you spent, all the years that you've wasted in a relationship that was not even worthy. You kept trying and praying and fasting, and you've been doing everything that you know to do, that people have been telling you to do, and it seemed not to be working. And the reason it seems not to be working because you're not with your ordained person. You're not with the person that God has for you. That's why there's so much shaking up in the land in relationships. That's why there are so many marriage divorces and remarriage, and people are just divorcing and going with other, because they were not with the right person for them. Half of the times we get into relationships out of our brokenness. And what we do is we get with people to help fill a void that's within us. And the other person has a void that's within them. So they're going to see your void, and you're going to see their void, and you're going to try to come together to make a whole relationship. And it doesn't work like that. That's why people can spend 5, 10, 15, 20 years in a relationship, and then a divorce happens. Because you get so caught up in the routine of things. You get so caught up in the abuse. Sometimes we make these people our idols. You can make your husband an idol. You can make your wife an idol, because what you try to do is you try to become everything to them that they want you to become. In a God-ordained relationship, in a relationship that is authentic and whole, you will be able to be yourself. You don't have to change who you are. There are some things you have to change about how you move and how you do things, but to change who you are at your core, to change if you are a loving and giving person, to change if you are generous, to change if you are outgoing and happy and spontaneous, to change the things at your core to please someone, that is not a relationship. You're morphing into who that person wants you to be. And if that person cannot and will not allow you to be yourself, you're not in a relationship. You're in a dictatorship. He's trying to, or she's trying to dictate who you should be to them. And that's why that's where the unhappiness come in at. The unhappiness come in where you try to be everything to a person to satisfy them, in which you should be able to be yourself, and you being yourself is enough for them. You shouldn't have to change who you are, right? I know I got off on a tangent, but if he wanted you, right? If he wanted you, he would make an effort to change, to make the relationship become more harmonious. If you're always in a pull and tug, if you're always trying to pull him over here and he's trying to pull you here, and there's no middle ground, you're not in the right relationship, because you spend so much of your energy trying to pull him over here and he's pulling you over here, and there's no harmony. You're not in the right relationship. That's why people spend years going back and forth trying to create this fantasy of a relationship because you hope it will work. But the reason it won't work because you guys did not get in the relationship on common ground, on spiritual, mental, common ground. You got together based on your lust. Oh, he looks good. Oh, she fine. She got big hips. She got a big butt. She's pretty. He looks good. Those are not, when I tell you, those are not things that you should not even consider. I mean, you should not even consider a person's shape, a person, how they look, how handsome they are. You want somebody who can talk to your, who can speak life to you, who can pray to you, who can talk to your spirit man. Because your spirit man is what helps you. Your spirit man is what keep you going. Your spirit man is what help you get through hard times. Because you can be laying in the bed with the guy who's fine. He got a six pack. He's fine. He got muscles. And he cannot speak to your spirit man. You feel depressed. He cannot even give you a word. He cannot even come and pray for you and look at you and say, baby, you know what? You look depressed. Let's go to God in prayer. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, Lord, my wife is depressed. Lord, remove this depression, or I come against this depression over my wife right now. You need somebody who's going to be able to see that down, you down in your spirit, and who can lift you up, who can talk to you, right? That's what relationships are. That's what a relationship is. A relationship is someone who you can relate to. Not someone who's at war with you, someone who's jealous of you, someone who's jealous of your ambition or jealous of how people love you, jealous of your personality. You don't want to be with someone like that. You don't want to be with someone who's cheating on you, who's making you feel like you not worthy, who's invalidating you. That's not a relationship. You want to be with someone who can communicate with you, who can communicate with you effectively, who can stand up for you, who can see someone disrespecting you and treating you wrong, and they'll stand up and say, listen, I can't allow you to talk to my wife like that. I can't allow you to talk to my husband, but I'm talking to the women right now. I can't allow for you to talk to my wife like that. Someone who can stand up for you. Someone who's not going to try to make you feel insecure in front of other women. Someone is not going to blatantly flirt with another woman in your face or be liking other women's statuses on Facebook and checking for other women. There's nothing wrong with looking, but you don't want nobody who's going to buy off the menu. They want to buy off the menu. They looking at somebody else's, butt shots and, side pics. You don't want somebody like that. You want somebody who respects you mutually. You want somebody who you could honor as a husband. Somebody you can be proud of to say, you know what, this is my husband, and I know he's not cheating on me. I know he's not out here making me look stupid. You know what I mean? That's how we got to be able to choose based on being whole. You want to choose someone based on being whole within yourself, because if you're whole within yourself, you're going to attract someone that is whole within himself. But you have to look at it. When you got with that man, you were broken. So he appealed to your brokenness. So that's what you got. You got a version of you. You got the version of you that you got the version of you in him. You got the version of you in him. Where you were at the time, you attracted him to you. You attracted who you were. Look at it. Remember, go back and look at it. When you got with that man, you were broken. You didn't know who you were. You kind of knew what you wanted, but you didn't know who you were. You didn't know who God called you to be. You didn't understand and recognize your power. You didn't understand and recognize your calling. You were still looking for someone to fill the voids in you. Those mommy issues, daddy issues, that void, right? That rejection, that abandonment. You were looking for someone to fill that. And you found someone to fill that. Because he had some of the same issues. That's where a trauma bond comes in at. That's what they call a trauma bond. When you find someone on that low level like you, and you guys connect based on your brokenness, that's a trauma bond. That's when all the confusion and all the ups and downs in the relationship starts. That's why you want to leave him 1 minute. You're back together the next minute. When you're in a true healthy relationship, you don't break up with the person all those times. That is not healthy. You don't break up with the person that many times and get back with them, because you're healthy enough. You will be healthy enough to communicate, to see where the breakdown was, and you will be healthy enough to correct it without blaming the other person. That's when you know you're in a healthy relationship. This is how you know he does not want you. He doesn't want you because you don't want you. You don't love you. You have to love you. And when you start loving you and start being okay with being by yourself and loving on yourself and being okay without having a man to comfort you, instead of having a man to comfort you, find out what your purpose is. Throw yourself into your purpose, because God has given you a purpose. Maybe he has given you a purpose based on being with that man, or he has given you something that you knew you were supposed to do since a child, and you never did operate in it because you were so busy trying to entertain a man who was not your man. Come on now, sis. Come on now. In order for somebody to want you and love you, you have to do that for yourself. You have to become who you want to attract. Everything that you want in a man, you have to be that to yourself. Be that to yourself, so you can attract a healthy relationship, so you can attract a healthy partner. This is your big sis talking to you. I'm talking to you out of love, and I'm trying to get you to understand you don't always need a man to fulfill you. The thing that will fulfill you is becoming whole, healing, dealing with your internal issues, filling the gaps and the holes that's in your heart, filling that abandonment, filling up that rejection, filling up that void of your mommy issues, your daddy issues. There are holes in your souls that you're trying to fill with the relationship. You're trying to fill that with things. No, once you do the work on yourself, that's why I promote healing. I promote healing because I've been there. I can talk so passionate about this because I've been there, I've experienced it, and I know what it takes to attract the right person for you. I know what it takes to leave a relationship that is not working for you. I know what it takes, because I had to endure those things. And no, you're not going to be perfect. And you also have to give yourself some grace. You give yourself the same grace you gave that man for cheating on you all those times. Give yourself the same grace that you gave that man for lying on you all those years. Give yourself the same grace that you gave that man for trying to invalidate you, make you feel insecure. When you give yourself that same grace, it is then you will know that you're ready for true love, authentic love, godly love, that agape love, a person who will love every essence of you, every inch of you. That's when you know you're ready, because you will have filled your own cup up. You will have filled your own voids. You will have filled yourself up. So you will be able to give yourself and be ready for the king that I know God is going to send you, girl. It's time to heal.